It was December 2016 in Ankeny, Iowa. Outside, the air was sharp with winter, but inside the Elite Edge Transformation Center, the cold didn't matter. Inside, it was all sweat and willpower, music pounding, bodies in motion, people grinding out reps like their lives depended on it. Among them was Kyle Thompson, a 22-year-old Iowa State senior with eyes locked on the future. For Kyle, this wasn't just fitness, it was preparation. He was gearing up to become a K-9 handler with the Des Moines Police Department. Every drop of sweat meant something. Every workout was a step closer to his dream. He wasn't the kind to slack. He didn't cut corners. Kyle was serious, disciplined, focused, the type of guy who made you want to show up harder just by being there. He had just completed a 20-pound weight loss challenge at the gym, and he was in peak condition. That day, it was business as usual. Another workout, another lift. He loaded the bar with 315 pounds for a bench press. Heavy, sure, but nothing new to him. He'd handled that weight before. Confident, controlled. And he had a spotter right there, just in case. But that's the thing with tragedy. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't care about experience. It sneaks up in silence and hits like thunder. Somewhere in the middle of the lift, something slipped. Maybe a grip, maybe a shift in position, maybe just an untraceable split-second miscalculation. In an instant, the bar fell. 315 pounds. Downward. Fast. There was no warning, no time. It crashed straight onto Kyle's neck. Everything changed in that moment. The gym fell into chaos. Someone shouted, someone called 911. Trainers ran. The spotter tried, but it was too late. Fire Chief James Clack later called the injury catastrophic. No hesitation, no sugarcoating. Kyle was rushed to the hospital, but hope was already slipping through everyone's fingers. He didn't make it. The news spread like fire in dry grass. Across the campus, across town, through the gym where Kyle's absence was sudden and impossible to ignore. People couldn't process it. Kyle? That couldn't be real. He was the one who had it all mapped out. He was about to graduate, about to serve, and about to become something more. Everyone had something to say about Kyle. His football coach remembered a quiet leader, the kind who didn't need to shout to be heard. A former co-worker remembered how his presence could lift a whole room. In the gym, on the field, at school, he gave everything. He was sharp, he was kind, he was ready, and just like that, he was gone. People kept asking how. How could this happen? He had experience. He had backup. He had done it before. The spotter was there. But sometimes tragedy is quicker than reflex. Sometimes a bar moves faster than human hands can follow. 1 second, that's all it took. The gym released a statement, heavy with grief. You could feel the loss in their words. This wasn't just a client. Kyle was family. He had pushed alongside them, fought through challenges with them, celebrated goals with them. And now there was an empty space where he used to be. In the days that followed, questions came. Could better equipment have made a difference? Should safeguards be redesigned? Could the spotter have done more? Kyle's death was rare, shockingly rare, but it exposed the brutal truth behind heavy lifting. When things go wrong, they go wrong fast. And yet, none of this changes the fact that Kyle was doing what he loved. He wasn't reckless. He was driven. He was chasing something real, a future built on discipline and heart. He didn't die because of weakness. He died in pursuit of strength, of purpose. One lift, one mistake, and the world lost someone who was just getting started. There are no easy lessons in a story like this, only the quiet echo of what might have been. A young man who had the world in front of him, a plan, a purpose, and a barbell that didn't care. Sometimes life is cruel like that. Dallas Big Country McCarver was a rising titan in the bodybuilding world, a walking wall of muscle who, at just 26 years old, had already made it to the Mr. Olympia stage and was considered one of the sport's brightest stars. Towering at 6 feet 1 inch and weighing well over 300 pounds in his off-season, he had the kind of size and symmetry that made jaws drop and judges take notice. But in August 2017, the bodybuilding community was rocked when news broke that Dallas had died suddenly in his Florida home. At first, reports pointed to a tragic accident involving choking on food while eating alone late at night. It sounded almost too strange to be true. His girlfriend at the time, WWE star Dana Brooke, mentioned that she had spoken to him just before the incident, and his last words to her were simply, "I love you. Goodbye." Those chilling words would echo across the internet as fans and fitness buffs tried to make sense of what had happened. The initial speculation was that Dallas, perhaps rushing his meal as bodybuilders often do to hit their calorie targets, had choked and collapsed. Emergency responders arrived and CPR was performed, but it was too late. The 911 call later revealed that his roommate found him unconscious, with food in his throat and insulin nearby, a clue that made the incident seem more complex than a simple choking accident. As shocking as the headlines were, the deeper truth turned out to be even more sobering. Months later, the autopsy report painted a very different picture. Yes, food was found in his airway, but it wasn't the primary cause of death. The real culprit was an acute cardiac event, a massive heart failure brought on by a dangerously enlarged heart. To put it in perspective, the average human heart weighs around 300 grams. Dallas's heart weighed a staggering 833 grams, nearly 3 times the normal size. His organs were also significantly enlarged, and his arteries showed heavy plaque buildup. All signs pointed to the long-term effects of extreme physical stress and likely the heavy use of performance-enhancing substances. Sadly, this isn't an unfamiliar story in the bodybuilding world, where the relentless drive to be bigger, leaner, and more defined often pushes athletes into dangerous territory. Dallas was known for his intense work ethic and larger-than-life persona, but even his close friends admitted that he pushed himself harder than most, often ignoring signs of fatigue or physical distress. In hindsight, his massive size and rapid growth weren't just the result of hard work and diet. They were red flags for a body under extreme internal pressure. What made Dallas's death hit so hard wasn't just that he was young, talented, and popular. It was the fact that he represented a generation of bodybuilders walking a razor's edge, idolized for their incredible physiques while often silently battling the toll those physiques took on their health. His death sparked widespread discussions within the fitness community about health risks, drug use, and the culture of more is better. While the image of a giant choking on dinner might have made for a sensational headline, the truth was much more tragic. Dallas McCarver didn't just die from a freak accident. He died from a system that rewards pushing beyond limits, even when it comes at the cost of your life. His story stands as both a cautionary tale and a somber reminder that behind every perfectly sculpted body might be a heart struggling to keep up. It started like any other training session, just another day in the gym for a 17-year-old champion, one of India's brightest rising stars in the world of powerlifting. Yashika Acharia had already made her name known, winning gold at the Junior National Games and dominating in the sub-junior 84 kilograms category at the National Bench Press Championship in Goa. She wasn't just strong, she was fierce, focused, and full of promise. But no one in that gym on February 18th, 2025, could have imagined what was about to unfold. The air inside Power Headquarters Gym in Bikaner, Rajasthan, was thick with the usual sounds of weights clanking, trainers shouting encouragement, and the steady rhythm of ambition. Yashika approached the squat rack, a 600-pound barbell loaded across her shoulders. Her coach stood close behind, watching her every move, acting as a spotter. The lift wasn't supposed to be a problem, not for someone like her, not for a gold medalist, but something went wrong. Just as she began the squat, her balance wavered. Her legs trembled, buckled, and then collapsed entirely. In a split second, the massive weight came crashing down, snapping her neck violently forward. Witnesses described the moment as surreal. A heavy silence fell over the gym as panic replaced discipline. Her coach rushed to her side, desperately trying CPR while gym members scrambled to lift the barbell off her lifeless body. But there was no pulse, no movement, no sign of life. Emergency responders rushed her to the hospital, but it was too late. Yashika Acharia, just 17, was declared dead shortly after arrival. Her spine had been crushed under the weight of her own ambition. The barbell had struck with such force that it left no chance of survival. Experts later pointed out that the weight was dangerously close to the limits of safety, especially for a young athlete still growing into her physical potential. Critics began questioning the gym's safety protocols, the trainer's preparedness, and the wisdom of allowing such a heavy lift in the first place. Her family, shattered, did not file a complaint. The body was released to them following a post-mortem. Her trainer, who suffered minor injuries trying to intervene, could only relive the horror over and over again. The video of the moment, brutal and haunting, made its rounds online, drawing widespread shock, grief, and outrage. This wasn't just a freak accident. It was a devastating reminder of how unforgiving this sport can be. One moment of imbalance, one slip, and the human body, no matter how strong, can break under the very weight it tries to conquer. Yashika had trained to defy limits, but that day her strength wasn't enough to save her. And now the world remembers her not just as a champion, but as a tragic symbol of a dream cut short, in a place where no one expected death to come calling. At the Paradise Bali gym, usually a place full of positivity, personal records, and post-workout smoothies, a tragic accident on July 15, 2023, turned everything silent. Justyn Vicky, a well-known fitness coach, bodybuilder, and social media figure, was attempting a massive back squat with 210 kilograms, about 462 pounds, on his shoulders. Justyn wasn't a beginner. He was the guy you'd see repping out heavy lifts with perfect form, offering advice to newcomers, and sharing motivational posts about health, discipline, and strength. He had built a reputation not just for his physique, but for his attitude, humble, passionate, and always striving for more. But on that day, the barbell had other plans. With one spotter behind him and the cameras rolling, Justyn got under the bar and prepared to do what he'd done many times before. He took the weight off the rack and began to squat. At first, it looked solid, controlled descent, tight posture, but as he reached the bottom of the squat, something went wrong. He tried to push back up, but his body couldn't handle the load. His legs struggled, and the weight shifted forward. He lost balance, and in a terrifying instant, the barbell crashed down onto the back of his neck as he fell. The impact was brutal. His spotter, caught off guard, couldn't stop the bar's momentum. The force of it broke Justyn's neck and caused severe trauma to nerves that control essential functions like breathing and heartbeat. Gym-goers nearby rushed to help. Emergency services were called, and he was taken to the hospital for surgery. Despite the best efforts of the medical team, Justyn passed away the next day, on July 16th. He was only 33. The news spread fast, first across Bali, then across the entire fitness world. People were shocked. How could someone as experienced and careful as Justyn meet such a fate in the gym? Tributes poured in online. Fellow lifters, fans, and friends described him as a beautiful soul, a true motivator, and a man who radiated kindness and strength. But with grief came questions. Why wasn't he using safety bars? Why was there only one spotter behind him during such a heavy lift? Why didn't he bail out sooner? The video of the incident, which later circulated online, sparked intense debates. Fitness experts pointed out that during a back squat that heavy, it's essential to have side spotters or perform the lift inside a squat rack with safety pins in place. Others talked about the dangers of ego lifting, when lifters push beyond their limits for the sake of achievement, content, or pride. Justyn himself had once said that the squat is dangerous as hell if not done correctly. It's haunting now to think those words came from the very person who would fall victim to it. His death became more than just a tragedy. It became a powerful reminder of how quickly things can go wrong in the gym, even for the strongest and most experienced athletes. Paradise Bali Gym posted a heartfelt message mourning the loss of their brother, friend, and inspiration. They promised to honor his legacy by continuing to promote safety and support within the fitness community. Justyn Vicky's story now lives on, not just in memories or Instagram posts, but as a lesson etched into the weights and walls of gyms everywhere. Respect the lift, respect your body, and never take safety for granted, because no matter how strong you are, gravity always wins. It was a regular afternoon in West Kalimantan, Indonesia, June 18, 2024. The third floor of the local gym buzzed with energy. Among them was 22-year-old FN. She arrived with her boyfriend and younger sibling, like she had done many times before. Fitness wasn't a phase for her. It was something deeper, a part of who she was. Her boyfriend gently nudged her to stick to the second floor that day, just a quiet suggestion. But FN felt like going higher, where the treadmills faced the windows, a harmless choice, a forgettable detail, until it wasn't. She hopped on a treadmill tucked at the far end of the room, her usual rhythm setting in almost immediately. The belt spun beneath her feet. Her breathing found its cadence. The minutes ticked by, 5, 10, 30. Surveillance footage later showed her running steady, calm, focused. But what the footage also captured, what no one really noticed at the time, was the window. It sat just behind her, too close, just 60 centimeters away. A flimsy 30-centimeter wall barely separated machine from the sky. There was no guardrail, no glass barrier, only air and height. As FN began to slow down, shifting from a jog to a walk, something changed. Maybe her foot clipped the belt. Maybe her balance shifted for a second too long. The treadmill didn't stop. The belt kept spinning and FN stumbled. Her body jerked backward. She reached, panicked, flailing for the window ledge. Her fingers brushed the frame but didn't hold. Gravity didn't wait. She fell, out the window, 3 stories down. The gym froze. Her boyfriend and sibling ran to the edge in disbelief. FN was still breathing when they found her, but barely. Blood, silence, shock. An ambulance arrived within minutes, but even the fastest help couldn't undo the damage. Her injuries, especially to the head, were catastrophic. Doctors tried everything, but her body couldn't fight anymore. FN died in the hospital that night. Grief gripped the city, but so did anger. How could something like this even happen? Why was a treadmill positioned so recklessly close to an open window? Where was the safety railing? Where was the trainer? Why was that window even open? The deeper investigators dug, the worse it became. The window had a sticker warning people not to open it during operating hours. It was old, faded, nearly illegible. The window had been left ajar anyway, and the personal trainer who was supposed to be monitoring the floor, gone, stepped away for just a moment. But sometimes a moment is all it takes to let tragedy walk in. The gym shut down for 3 days. They issued a formal apology to FN's family, but it rang hollow for many. Words didn't bring FN back. She was young, she was strong, she had plans, and she died doing something that was supposed to make her feel alive. Public outrage swept through the community. People demanded answers, demanded accountability. This wasn't just some freak accident. This was neglect dressed up as normalcy. There were no safeguards in place, none that mattered, and a young woman paid for it with her life. FN didn't trip off a cliff or get lost in a storm. She was running on a treadmill, indoors, in a gym, and somehow she fell to her death. What happened in that gym wasn't just an accident. It was a reminder, chilling, sharp, and cruel, that safety in these spaces is not a luxury. Greg Plitt wasn't just a fitness model, he was a force of nature, a chiseled symbol of discipline, drive, and daredevil confidence. A West Point graduate and former Army Ranger, Greg made his way into the fitness world like a hurricane, landing over 200 magazine covers, starring in motivational workout videos, and becoming a household name for anyone chasing that beast mode lifestyle. But behind the muscle and military-grade intensity was a man who constantly pushed the limits, both physically and mentally. And on January 17, 2015, that tendency to push a little too far ended in a heartbreaking tragedy. Greg was filming a promotional video for a new energy drink on active train tracks in Burbank, California. No permits, no warning signs, just Greg and a few crew members shooting what was meant to be a dramatic sequence of him running on the tracks, supposedly to symbolize power, speed, and fearlessness. He'd done similar videos before, filming in extreme conditions or challenging environments to add that raw, unfiltered edge to his motivational brand. But this time, things took a fatal turn. As he ran between the rails, a southbound Metrolink train approached at approximately 60 miles per hour. The train engineer immediately saw him, sounded the horn, and slammed the brakes. But Greg didn't move. It wasn't suicide. Witnesses and investigators agreed he likely believed the train was on a different set of tracks, or assumed he had enough time to get clear. Unfortunately, that assumption proved deadly. The incident occurred just north of the Burbank Metrolink station, in an area that clearly prohibited trespassing. Authorities later confirmed that neither Greg nor his team had requested filming permits from Metrolink or the city. In fact, Metrolink has a strict policy for any commercial or private filming near their tracks, requiring safety officers, flaggers, and permission from their office to ensure that exactly this kind of tragedy doesn't happen. But in a moment driven by ambition and cinematic vision, that safety step was skipped. Investigators reported that Greg may have been trying to film a head-on action shot with the train in the background, possibly misjudging its distance or speed. The train, weighing hundreds of tons and traveling at high velocity, had no chance of stopping in time. Greg was struck and killed instantly. His body was reportedly thrown from the tracks, and paramedics at the scene pronounced him dead shortly after. It shocked not only the fitness community, but the entire country. This wasn't just a tragic death, it was a preventable one. In the days following his passing, tributes poured in. Fans, fellow bodybuilders, veterans, and actors all expressed sorrow at the loss of someone who had motivated millions. Greg wasn't just a model. He was a mentor, a motivator, and a guy who genuinely believed in helping others achieve their highest potential. But his death sparked a louder conversation about safety in filming, especially in unofficial or guerrilla-style shoots. The parallels to other film-related tragedies, such as the Midnight Rider incident that killed camera assistant Sarah Jones, became painfully apparent. Industry professionals and fitness influencers alike began calling for stricter adherence to safety regulations, even in self-produced content. Because no shot is worth a life, Greg Plitt lived like a superhero. But his tragic end reminded everyone that even heroes are bound by the laws of nature and the rules of safety. His legacy continues to inspire, but also serves as a sobering reminder that when you walk too close to the edge, make sure it doesn't lead to a set of live tracks. He was young, brilliant, and driven by a future most people only dream of. At 21 years old, Mohammed Farage was already carving his path toward becoming a neurosurgeon, a medical student with a fierce intellect, unmatched compassion, and the kind of grit that pushed him beyond the ordinary. On October 16, 2024, inside the familiar walls of the University of East Anglia's Sports Park gym, he walked in for just another workout, but he would never walk out again. Mohammed had always taken his fitness seriously. He ran 10 kilometers regularly. He was training for an Ironman. That evening, he stepped up to the Smith machine, a common piece of gym equipment ready to perform a simple calf raise exercise. It should have been routine, something he'd done countless times before. But what followed was a chain of small, overlooked mistakes that led to one unthinkable moment. He placed a 25 kilograms plate on each side of the 15 kilograms bar, totaling 65 kilograms. Then, using a plastic aerobic stepper, a 10-inch high platform meant for dance-based cardio, not heavy lifting, he climbed into position. The safety brakes on the machine were still set to the lowest point, left there by the last user who had been doing hip thrusts. Mohammed didn't adjust them. No one warned him. And the bar sat above him, ready to fall. As he began the movement, slowly lowering his heels to engage his calves, the stepper beneath him tilted. It wasn't built for this kind of strain. It rocked forward. He lost his balance, and in a flash the bar slipped, slamming down on the back of his neck. There was a loud bang. Witnesses turned, confused at first, then horrified. Mohammed collapsed to the floor. Blood pooled. He didn't move. Just feet away, a fellow gym-goer, Dr. Trey Kiov, saw it happen from the corner of his eye. Another man, Dr. Damian Laba, a consultant anesthetist, rushed from his bench press. They were doctors. They knew what they were seeing. Mohammed wasn't breathing. Blood filled his mouth. His airway was compromised. Dr. Laba rolled him into the recovery position, desperately trying to open his airway, then started CPR. More gym-goers gathered, some in tears, others frozen in shock. Paramedics arrived. The team fought to bring him back, but it was already too late. Mohammed Farage was declared dead at the scene. The tragedy didn't lie in some freak equipment failure. It was human error, compounding in silence. The Smith machine had no warning labels. The safety stoppers hadn't been moved. The step he used was unstable. The fast-track gym induction he received didn't cover the specific dangers of the machine he was using. He didn't know, and no one stopped to tell him. The CCTV footage later revealed it all, every detail, every second that led to the fatal impact. It wasn't a violent scene, but a slow, tragic slip into disaster. One moment of imbalance, one unguarded second, and a promising life so full of potential was gone. His father, Hashim Farage, watched the inquest unfold through a video link. He listened in silence as witnesses described how his son, his light and greatest hope, died beneath a weight that should never have fallen. He had spoken to Mohammed just hours before. He said his son was cheerful, energetic, absolutely fine, and then he was gone. Mohammed had been training for greatness, in his mind, in his body, and in his future. He had learned 8 languages. He was nicknamed Millionaire in school for reading 1,000,000 words. His professors saw in him a future filled with life-saving skill and leadership. He dreamed of helping people. Instead, he died trying to better himself in a gym that didn't do enough to protect him. No criminal charges were filed. The health and safety executive called it a tragic accident. But for those who knew him, and those who watched the footage, accident felt like too small a word for such a huge loss. The gym later removed the stepper and replaced it with a safer, purpose-built platform. But that change came one death too late. Now, Mohammed Farage's story stands as a sobering reminder that in places built to strengthen us, we must also demand safety, vigilance, and care. Because even the strongest bodies and brightest minds can fall in an instant when the right precautions are forgotten and the weight becomes too much. In the world of competitive bodybuilding, few young athletes rise as quickly and brightly as Cphiso Lungalo Tabete did. Hailing from South Africa, Cphiso wasn't just another hopeful in the gym. He was a national champion with global recognition. In 2016, he won the prestigious IFBB Junior World Championship in the Dominican Republic, placing himself firmly on the map as a promising figure in the international bodybuilding scene. His performances were powerful, his physique impressive, and his passion for the sport unmistakable. But in a tragic turn of events in 2017, Cphiso's life was cut heartbreakingly short in front of a live audience during what should have been another moment of celebration in his rising career. The incident took place at a bodybuilding event in Umlazi, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. Cphiso was a local favorite, and his entrance was highly anticipated. Known not just for his strength, but also for his flair, he often kicked off his appearances with a signature backflip, a move that combined athleticism with showmanship. On this particular day, he walked out onto the stage wearing socks, perhaps not realizing the risk they posed on the slick floor. As the crowd cheered and cameras rolled, he prepared for his usual flip. But as he launched into the air, something went terribly wrong. Instead of completing the rotation and landing on his feet, Cphiso under-rotated and came crashing down on the back of his neck. What followed was a scene of sudden confusion and horror. At first, many in the crowd believed it was part of the performance, or that he would get up and brush it off, as athletes often do. But seconds passed and Cphiso lay motionless. Panic set in as officials rushed to his side. It quickly became clear that this was a serious injury. He was immediately transported to a nearby hospital, but the damage was catastrophic. Cphiso had broken his neck during the fall, suffering a fatal cervical spine injury. Despite medical efforts, he was pronounced dead shortly after. He was just 23 years old. The bodybuilding community, both in South Africa and internationally, was shaken. Messages of grief and disbelief poured in across social media. Wayne Price, president of Bodybuilding South Africa, later commented that the accident likely occurred because of the socks Cphiso had been wearing, which may have caused him to slip and fail to gain the necessary momentum. It was a painful reminder of how even the most confident and physically prepared athletes can fall victim to sudden, unpredictable dangers, especially when performance and aesthetics are pushed to the limit. What made Cphiso's passing even more heartbreaking was the fact that it was caught on camera. The footage quickly circulated online, with many calling for its removal out of respect for his family and memory. The video served as a stark and uncomfortable reminder of how quickly things can go wrong, even in a moment meant to inspire and impress. Cphiso wasn't just a bodybuilder, he was a young man full of ambition, potential, and heart. His tragic death left a void in the sport and a lasting message about the importance of caution, safety, and awareness, even in environments driven by performance and spectacle. Though his time on this earth was short, Cphiso Lungalo Tabete's dedication and spirit remain etched in the memories of fans, athletes, and all who saw his potential. His story is no longer just one of triumph, but also of tragedy and of the fragile line that separates both. It was supposed to be another day of strength, sweat, and self-discipline, a routine session inside one of Bali's most popular fitness hubs, the Paradise Bali Gym. But on July 15th, 2023, that routine turned into a nightmare. Justyn Vicky, a beloved 33-year-old fitness influencer known for his powerful physique and gentle soul, stepped under a barbell loaded with a staggering 210 kilograms. Cameras were rolling, music pulsed through the speakers. No one in the room suspected that within seconds, tragedy would unfold before their eyes. Justyn had done this before. He knew the weight, he knew the motion, but as he dipped into the squat position, something was off. His posture trembled, his legs strained under the massive burden. He tried to push himself back up to find his footing, but he couldn't. His body gave out, and then came the moment no one could stop. The barbell fell. It crashed down on the back of his neck as he collapsed into a seated position. His spotter, caught off guard and unbalanced, fell with him, unable to slow the weight's descent. The sound of the impact was sickening. Gasps filled the gym. Panic shattered the calm. In that one instant, a powerful man, admired by thousands, was rendered motionless under the very weight he tried to master. Emergency responders rushed him to the hospital. He still had a pulse. There was still hope. Doctors performed emergency surgery, battling against the odds to repair the crushed vertebrae and severe compression of nerves that connected to his heart and lungs. But it was too much. The damage had already stolen too much from his body. Justyn Vicky, at only 33, died shortly after the operation. The weight had broken not just his neck, it had silenced a life built on inspiration, motivation, and the pursuit of excellence. News of his death spread like wildfire. The viral video, raw, brutal, and heartbreaking, left thousands in shock. Across social media, fans and friends poured out tributes. People didn't just see him as a trainer, they saw him as a guide, a motivator, a man who made the gym feel safe and empowering. His close friend, Yashika Acharia, recalled how Justyn always warned others not to push beyond their limits. He was the careful one, the wise one, the one who always put others' safety first. And that's what made it hurt more. He had over 30,000 followers, each one drawn to his energy and presence. The gym where he worked honored him not just as a coach, but as a light in their lives. Every session with Justyn felt like more than just exercise, they wrote. He created a nurturing environment where we felt safe to challenge ourselves, both physically and mentally. But even the strongest bodies can falter. Even the most experienced lifters are vulnerable, and in a world that celebrates pushing limits, this tragedy was a brutal reminder of how quickly everything can fall apart. 1 second, Justyn was a towering figure of strength. The next, he was gone, leaving behind echoes of a man who had lifted more than just weight. He lifted people's spirits. Now his legacy lives on, not in records or personal bests, but in the way he made others feel, in the caution he taught, in the inspiration he left behind, and in the collective heartbreak of a community that never expected to lose its hero like this. Franco Columbu was more than just a bodybuilding legend. He was a symbol of strength, discipline, and timeless friendship. Born in Sardinia in 1941, he rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most respected names in the world of fitness. He was small in stature, but built like a tank, with a smile that made him approachable even as he broke powerlifting records. Over the years, he earned titles like Mr. Olympia in 1976 and 1981, competed in the inaugural World's Strongest Man contest, and worked as a chiropractor and actor. But beyond the trophies and muscle, Franco was perhaps best known as the lifelong best friend and training partner of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Their bond was forged in iron, literally, on gym floors, under heavy barbells, and during early morning runs that helped define the golden era of bodybuilding. Arnold once described Franco as not only his closest friend, but as a brother, someone who had been by his side through decades of triumph, failure, and life-changing success. Tragically, on August 30th, 2019, Franco's remarkable life came to an unexpected and heartbreaking end. He had returned to Sardinia to enjoy a vacation in the town of San Teodoro. That morning, he completed a light workout and reportedly participated in a local festival where he interacted with locals, laughed, and took photos with fans. Later in the early afternoon, he decided to take a swim in the crystal-clear Mediterranean waters. It was a warm, calm day, by all accounts, perfect for a dip. However, while swimming offshore, Franco began to experience severe chest pain. Witnesses say he appeared to struggle suddenly, showing signs of distress. Emergency services were called immediately, and a helicopter was dispatched to the beach. Lifeguards and paramedics rushed to help and pulled him from the water, where resuscitation attempts began right away. He was airlifted to the John Paul II Hospital in Olbia, but despite efforts during the flight and at the hospital, he was declared dead shortly after arrival. The cause was determined to be a heart attack, which likely occurred mid-swim, causing him to lose consciousness and drown before help could reach him. It was a swift and silent tragedy that caught everyone off guard. He had lived with humility, treated people with kindness, and remained passionate about health and fitness well into his later years. Arnold Schwarzenegger, visibly shaken by the loss, shared a heartfelt tribute, calling Franco his partner in crime and the person he trusted most in the world. "I love you, Franco," he wrote. "I know I will see you again." His funeral, held in his hometown of Olalai, was filled with friends, family, and admirers who came to pay their respects to a man who had never forgotten his roots. A second memorial was later held in Los Angeles, a city where Franco had trained, healed, and inspired thousands. Even in death, his influence didn't fade. It lingered in the gyms he helped shape, in the stories told by bodybuilders he mentored, and in the legacy of a man who proved that heart, not just muscle, is what makes a legend. Franco Columbu's life was extraordinary, but his passing was a quiet, sobering reminder that even the strongest among us are still human. He died doing what he loved, after a workout in the water, in the sunlit beauty of his homeland, in a way that feels fitting, a warrior at peace.